Hey Vaush, morally or otherwise, is what Russia is doing to Ukraine different from what Israel is doing to Palestine? No need for a detailed answer, just a yes or no will be enough for me. There are similarities and differences. So, in both cases, a larger and stronger power is attempting a kind of ethnic cleansing, though in different forms. Israel, I think, wants to finish the job. I think Israel wants a more holistic type of cleansing. Political, cultural, ethnic. They just want Israel to be there. Russia, on the other hand, just wants a national cleansing of Ukraine. One where the dissidents are purged, and the nationalists, and the people who, you know, remember Ukraine, but the actual ethnic group of Ukrainians, I think Putin is perfectly okay with allowing to live. They just don't want them, he doesn't want them to think of themselves as Ukrainians, just part of broader Russia, if that makes any sense. So the work that Israel is doing in that respect, I think, is far more sinister. However, there are other things that Russia is doing that are far worse. I would say that, and some people might want to give me flack for this, but I do believe it, you know, the indiscriminate shelling and full invasion that Russia is currently conducting in Ukraine is worse than what Israel is doing in Palestine, if for no other reason than because it is a much fuller form of direct warfare, which will accrue a much greater degree of economic and human suffering by an almost exponential degree. I mean, like, with Israel, it's like border skirmishes, encampments and settlements raised, and, like, rockets fired back and forth. And Russia is committing hundreds of thousands of troops to a full invasion. So, in that respect, there's a difference in kind. There's also, of course, that what Russia is doing has the threat of promoting warfare between itself and NATO countries, and that it's a threat in the broader European theater and so on, whereas what Israel is doing to Palestine is pretty clear, like a Israel-Palestine thing, you know what I mean? Again, not a defense, it's just, it's very obvious that what's happening between Israel and Palestine is a thing that is between them, whereas the Russia-Ukraine stuff is part of Russia's broader imperial ambitions, in a respect that I don't think is really comparable to what's going on with Israel, you know? Like, I don't think Israel's going to, like, look to annex Iran, or, you know, like, I mean, you know, don't quote me on that one, okay? Wackier stuff has happened. You know, it's not as though Israel hasn't made massive land acquisitions in the recent past. Just, no, okay, put a pin in that one. Yeah, put a pin in that one. Elsewise, let me think. There are a lot of similarities. Though I would be hesitant to draw direct comparisons too much, if for no other reason than because even if these situations were technically and ethically very, very comparable, the ways in which they need to be addressed are incomparable. There's no relationship between the two. You know, for instance, the situation with Israel cannot be fixed by funding Hamas. That is not a thing that can happen. That is simply not a process by which the situation can be made better. So yeah, it's complicated. It's very complicated. You know, doing the work that I do has been very humbling because as much as debates frequently remind me that I'm smarter than at least more informed than the vast majority of people who talk about these issues, I still know so little. Which means, I guess, by sort of, you know, extension of that logic, everyone does. While I am very unhappy that Russia has invaded Ukraine, I am, I suppose, thankful to be humbled with the breadth of knowledge that I have yet to acquire. Though, goddamn, I really wish it was under better circumstances. You know, this is very much a, you know, my house being set on fire and me being run down by marauding, you know, Mad Max biker gangs sure did give me the opportunity to appreciate my ability to run long distances kind of situation. It's like, well, I'm glad I got to learn that, but if only it could have been learned another way. Vaush is at his peak when he isn't being arrogant. I am, listen, the respect in which An unfortunate consequence of doing the work that I do is that you have to have incredibly high self-esteem in order to have any chance of surviving this environment. And that naturally means that you're going to be pretty defensive and combative of your own positions. Keep in mind, folks, that if it weren't for that, I would have acquiesced to the woke scolds years ago, and I would be one of those white people shouldn't speak on black people's issues types, you know? There are downsides to it, and it's always a push and pull, a back and forth that has to be managed, but think of the stubbornness and arrogance that I demonstrate as a natural byproduct of the characteristics that make the work that I do possible. Not a justification. That doesn't mean it shouldn't be worked on. Just remember to frame it in that way, you know? JK debate win. God, I wish. Don't tempt me. Guys, okay, if you think I go big brain mode while talking with these, like, 64 IQ skeptic YouTubers, you guys need to see. If it was on the line with someone like J.K. Rowling, okay, she would... The only winning move she could make in that debate would be to pull out the Ethernet cable the nanosecond we connect on Zoom, okay? That would be... I would make it a ruinous interaction for her. There would be nothing. What do you think of a two-state solution? It seems like the only realistic solution. It's not the one that I like, mind you. It's just, if you actually look at the, you know, the circumstances present in Israel and Palestine and what's going on and what people want and what people are doing, the closest thing we're going to get, at least in the short term, to a reasonable peace and a reasonable, like, guarantee of safety for the Palestinian people, temporarily, is a two-state solution. That is not my preferred solution. This is very much a, you know, shades of unhappiness. Yeah, a one-state solution might have been possible several decades ago. I mean, it's possible. It's possible. It just doesn't seem feasible for me, you know? The idea of the Israelis agreeing to a single-party or single-state solution, based pragmatic take, but what is your preferred solution, if you don't mind? I don't know, man. A single state with, like, a bicameral legislator that made an effort to integrate the desires of the Israeli and Palestinian people would be nice. You know? Even that's a pragmatic thing. I mean, you know, I want to abolish states altogether.